Before we dive into this next episode of Both Sides of the Check, let me take a moment to recognize our sponsor, Miss Cat Consulting. We help people that are looking to start their own business take your concept to company. So if you're interested in learning more, make sure you go to connectwithmisscat.com. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and we're going to pull back the curtain of entrepreneurship while we sit down with another great check writer. What's up, everybody? It is your girl, Miss Cat, your coach, accountability partner, and teacher. And I'm here, yet another episode of Both Sides of the Check. So you already know what that means. I'm featuring yet another great check writer, someone who is a full-time entrepreneur who is ready to just share their nuggets, their jewels, and their gems with you. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get my guest to introduce herself today.
Hello, my name is. First off, thank you so much for having me on. I truly
You're
appreciate this.
welcome, lovely.
This is a wonderful platform for entrepreneurs.
Mm.
And so, with that said, my name is Jasmine Robinson. I'm the founder and executive director of the Collegiate Moms Coalition. We are an organization that is grassroots. We serve moms who are in college who need scholarships, but we also provide programming such as financial literacy, as well as professional dress seminars, and the list goes on. Just anything to help a mom from college to get a career, or go into entrepreneurship.
I love that. I love that for many reasons, but one of which, as being a single mother of two, I just think that's a phenomenal thing. And I'm sure you probably hear this all the time, but we on a
Mhm.
new space, so let's just rehash it. But
Yeah.
what made you start something like that?
Huh. Honestly, I mean, I think it was just out of necessity.
Okay.
It was, and I'm also one of those people that's like a fight the power type of girl. I
Okay.
love a good rendezvous. I
Mhm.
love a good usurp of the throne. That's just me. I don't know. I watch a lot of Game of Thrones too.
Okay.
So yeah, so it actually started because I was enrolled at a university. And during that time, I wanted to participate in the scholarship pageant that they had. So this
Okay.
was the Miss Prairie View A&M pageant.
Okay.
And so I was pulled to the side after the interest meeting and told that I was not eligible. And so I was like, well, can you show me the rules? Like, I need to understand what's going on here. And so in the fine print, it said, you cannot be a mother, you cannot be married, you cannot be divorced, you can't have had an abortion, and you cannot have cohabitated with the opposite sex.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I was pretty upset, mainly because really didn't even care about pageantry. I really only was focused on the scholarship.
For sure.
Because for me, that would have just changed my life. And so that's where it started. It started off as a scholarship pageant because I went to up to the vice president of the university at the time, and I was airing my grievances, and I was told that their idea of Miss Prairie View is someone who's pure, and that is a direct quote. And so that
Wow.
was really the fuel behind my fire and why I just decided, you know what, I have to do something about this. So I went to my advisor of students in free enterprise because I was the vice president at the time of that organization. And when I brought this to him, his name is Dr. Frederick Roberts. When I brought this up to him, he's one of those advocates for the students. He was like, all right, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Instead of being upset, why don't you just create your own pageant? And I was like, whoa,
Wow.
I've never directed a pageant. I've never been a part of a pageant, nothing like that. But I was a cheerleader. So I'm like, I know how to project. I know
Yeah.
how to, I was in ROTC as well. I'm disciplined. So,
Yeah.
in high school. So I'm like, okay, I can do all of these things. And I graduated the top 10% of my class in high school. So I'm like, I have some good sense. I can do
Okay.
this. And so that's how it started. We sold out. The first year we did it in 2010. We held the pageant in the university's auditorium. We were on the front page of the newspaper called the Panther at
I
the
love
time.
it.
Because the way that God works, I ended up being really cool with the young lady who wrote the article, and still to this day, such a huge advocate of Collegiate Moms Coalition. And so I did that for 2 years. And then, of course, I had to graduate from
Mm.
college. And then life started life, and I got married, I got divorced, and then I came back out here to Houston. I was living in Austin for a while. And so that's how the nonprofit sector started to be, because I realized once I got my bachelor's in architecture, I couldn't find a job. I was trying, I was like thinking the degree was enough. And really, I should have had an internship. I should have had a mentor, someone to help me. I'm a
Wow.
first generation college graduate. My mother, I'm the product of teen parents. My mother got pregnant with me her first semester at Texas Southern University, and she dropped out because they were like, you can't have a baby and go to school.
Wow.
So there's
Wow.
this is a generational thing that's
Wow.
happening. And so for me, I realized, okay, I can't find a degree. I mean, I can't
Mm.
find a job. So that led me to going back to get my master's. So I actually never really left school. I stayed that summer, couldn't find a job. I was like, oh no, I need
Yeah.
some money. I need to
For
go to
real. You
school.
gotta do something.
Yeah. So I stayed in school. And then as I was doing that, I got a graduate opportunity, like a job on
Mm.
campus. And while I was doing that job on campus, I met another man. His name was Mr. Cotton.
Mm.
And I met him, and he was like, hey, I want you to start teaching. I was working in the cooperative extension program, and he was like, I want you to start teaching classes about, like, do you know your credit score? I was like, no.
Mm.
He was like, you need to learn that. I said, I need help with my resume because I was trying to find a job and I could.
Yeah.
He gave me every single nugget, every jewel. He helped me rewrite my resume. Like, he helped me with everything. Then I started thinking, if I'm going through this, I
Who
know
else?
other
For
moms are
sure.
going through this.
For sure.
If your parents aren't financially literate, then
The-
how do you become financially literate? Or if your mother has never worked in corporate, how does she, I just started connecting the dots. So that's how my nonprofit came to be, where we're providing all of these other resources. The pageant is just the cherry on top. That is just the thing to get people talking, because when they see it, they're like, oh wow, like these are beauty queens. and
yeah.
and it's putting mothers on a pedestal that they should have already
Already been
been
on. Wow.
on. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Well, man, you said a whole mouthful, and I just be hoping and praying that when people listen to this show or they're watching this show, that they are like really tuned in to what you guys are be saying. Because one thing that I think people really have to realize is that you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
You get what I'm saying?
absolutely. Yeah.
And what you said was so powerful. You were like, "Hey, my parent. I'm the first person that went
Hmm.
to college. I'm the first person to ever do X, Y, Z. So how do you get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, you need someone or something to help you to get where you want to go. So that's deep. And I also heard you say that you've created something out of need, because a lot of times people start a business or something because it's personal or it's about them or that. But like you said, the first thing that clicked in your mind is, hey, if I'm suffering with
Hmm.
this, how many other people are suffering with this as well? So that's a great thing. So before, well, it so is it safe to say, that the journey of entrepreneurship really fueled out of school, or like, because I was
No.
gonna say, yeah, is this your first rodeo?
So
Like,
no, I'm like, let me adjust the mic really quick.
look, mic
No.
check. Look.
No, absolutely not. So my journey of entrepreneurship started when I was in elementary, actually.
Wow.
So I was in elementary school. I wanted to have some extra money for school, and we used to go to Sam's.
Okay.
And my grandmother, we passed up all this candy, and I was like, "Oh, I want this candy," and she was like, "I'm not buying that for you. Like, it's a waste of money." I'm like, "No, I want to sell it at school because I saw other people selling it at school." So she was like, "Okay, well, if you bring me my money back, we
Hey.
can flip it." And that is how I learned
Wow.
entrepreneurship. And
Wow.
what I would do is I would take the candy, I would put it inside my little red wagon. This is when they used to have the wagon that you could pull. They probably, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. My kids are teenagers now. They're 15, 16, so I don't even know what the
What?
kids have these days. But yeah, I had my little red wagon, and I used to go door to door because this is when it was quote unquote safe. I don't know how safe it was, but all the kids were outside. So yeah, so I used to go door to door and I used to sell candy, and people would buy it from me because I'm a kid. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we'll support you. You're not even going to eat it." But that was when I realized, like, oh, this could really be something, when I started having the money to do certain things. And then when I got into middle school, no lie, I was always a very artistic kid, where I love to draw, love to paint, just whatever I could get my hands on. I was into making bracelets, writing poems. I was just very like artsy, I guess. And so I would find pens on the floor of the school, and I would go take them home. I would collect them all, make sure they work.
Mm.
And this is back when those feather pens were a thing, when you have the feathers on the end and the different.
Girl, yes.
So I
Look, that
used to,
now we telling our age a
because
little
I
bit.
know, I know.
Look.
My kids always say, "Mom, no, you
No.
lived in the 1900s."
I
She was like,
cannot.
"You were born in the 1800s." I'm like, "Wow, okay."
Okay. That is
It
too
be your
funny.
own kids. So yeah, I would find those pens. I would roll them in glue, put glitter on them, let them
Wow.
dry, wrap them in little what is a little the
No,
fluffy wire.
I already know
Yeah, I
what
used
you're
to
talking
wrap them
about,
and then
girl.
put feathers on the end, put little googly eyes or little diamonds, and I would go sell them, right? And people would be like, "Oh, these are so nice." And so that is really how I got into it. And then when I became pregnant in school, and I was like, "Okay, I don't know what I'm gonna
Yeah.
do. How am I gonna make money?" Because I really should have gone on a full ride scholarship. I was accepted to Rice, Texas A&M, like all these
Jeez.
different schools in the state of
Wow.
Texas. I
Wow.
went to Prairie View because number one, the campus was really beautiful. I loved seeing all of the Black people. I just felt very comfortable and confident there, and so that's what made me go to Prairie View. And it was close to home because I'm from Houston, and
Yeah.
so I was like, I don't want to go too far. I've
But you
never
still
really,
wanna
yeah, I still want to
kind of be
be away.
grown a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to be away a bit, so that's why I went to Prairie View. So for me, it was more so I've learned these skills, and when it boiled down to it, I started selling plates. Like out of my house, I was writing papers for people. I was going off heroin, buying purses. Now they weren't real, but they were purses. And I would get with the wholesalers, buy purses, and I was doing hair. So when people would come over and I'd be doing hair, I would have all the purses lined up on the couch, and then they'd be like, "Oh, you still?"
Yeah.
And it's in the privacy of my own home, so don't nobody have to see you buying a fake purse. But you know what I mean. So I would always have
Wow.
money from having those multiple streams of income, and then I went into corporate. So I'll pause there, but that is really how I got started into
So
entrepreneurship.
I guess it's just safe to say that the hustle that like you born and bred with that, and would you say that's out of survival mode?
Absolutely. Absolutely out of survival mode, because along with that, I also worked overnight taking care of people with mental disabilities. And then
mm,
in the day, I had a job as a cashier at the university. So, and I've had multiple jobs, but at that time I was doing everything I could to make money.
wow,
When my dad was murdered a month before I graduated high school,
Jesus, I'm sorry
it
to hear
really
that.
changed. It's
Mm,
okay because it's a part of my story, but it definitely changed the trajectory of my life. I was a virgin until I went to college. So
mm,
I had never really experienced being in a relationship for real. I was never really allowed to have that anyway.
yeah,
And everything was kind of like, the kiddie thing when you
mm,
pass notes and stuff. But it
mm,
was never anything on that level. And so I was never really taught about sex. I was just told, don't come home pregnant. Don't come back here pregnant. You can't come back here with a
mm,
baby. We're not going to help you, that sort
yeah,
of thing. And so I really didn't understand what that meant to even be a mom and have to take care of someone. But I grew up helping take care of my
everybody
cousins and
else.
things like
Yep.
that. And so yes, I had that scarcity mindset of, okay, once I got pregnant, I knew I can't play around anymore. Like
Yeah.
the one thing I know how to do is school. The one
Mm,
thing I know how to do is complete something and finish something. So now I have these two children who are looking at me. Mind you, my first daughter, I was like, oh, okay, I'm pregnant. My second daughter, I went in to get birth control, and they were like, ma'am, you are 4 months pregnant. My stomach was small. They didn't know. I didn't know though. I didn't know. I
wow.
didn't know.
Okay.
And me and their dad had only been together once. It was protected, and I still got pregnant. And so
Jesus.
I know that. I know. And so they were like, yeah, go get your prenatal vitamins, and it's a girl. So that drive from Houston back to Prairie View was like, oh my God, I'm about to have two under two. I just couldn't believe it. I was
Wow.
beside myself. And so yeah, I learned a lot through that. But growing up in a situation where I didn't know where my next dollar was going to come
Mm,
from. My mom wasn't in the position to help me because, again, she was a teen mom. I had
for
a sister
sure.
who died from cancer. We lived in MD Anderson Cancer Center for a while. I was staying with my grandmother. My mom was living there with my other little sister. And so, for me, I knew I cannot possibly repeat the same cycle.
Right.
I knew that this is going to be, in my mind, I'm like, this is embarrassing if I don't finish, because
Mm,
this is the one thing I know how to do.
for sure.
These other things maybe I didn't know, but this is what I know how to do. So my
Wow.
education was the key to everything. So it didn't matter what other people said to me, but I know that that's always been my mentality. If you tell me I can't do something,
Oh, it just
I'm about to can like I never could before. That's just who I am. I love that. For me, that is
that's
the
the
fuel for
fuel.
me to be able to stand up and say, aha, you
Hmm.
thought I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So that's where that drive comes from, is just from the standard that I set for myself.
Self.
And I know that if I can do it, other people can do it too, but they need to know the resources are there, because everyone is not good at sourcing. I am
Mm-mm.
resourceful. I know how to find the programs. Where do I go? I am willing to die on that hill. Get your SNAP benefits, get your Medicaid, Medicare, get your government cheese because hey, when you start working like I was, you're making six figures, you're paying into that pot.
For sure.
You're paying into the back,
Mhm.
whether you want to or not. I've been working since I was 16. My very first job at CC's Pizza. Welcome to CC's. That's what I learned, I hated it. And I remember a manager came up to me, and I forget what he said, but he said something to me that was just out of line. And I was like, you know what? You work here. I'm going to college. This is my summer job before I go to college. But that was always my key that I would never let somebody talk down on me or treat me bad just because I'm making $7.25 an hour. I knew that one day I wasn't just going to be the customer. I wasn't going to be the worker. I was going to be the CEO.
I know that's right. I know that that's right. So, how did you were you because I remember if I'm not mistaken, and I don't want to lie or try to make up some story in my mind because I talked to so many people,
Mhm.
but I do remember talking with you about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
I think that was, and you can correct me or position me if I'm wrong, right? But I think that was the time where you were
Mhm.
transitioning into full time. Is that possible? No?
No,
Okay. So
I was
see,
just
look,
doing my
see,
nonprofit
look,
work.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
tell us what I want to know and what my viewers want to know. Tell us about the click or the shift from check, what we call check casher, to like side hustling to check writer, which is full time entrepreneurship. What was that like for you?
So baby steps, right? So we was
Okay.
just I'm a baby.
Okay.
I'm way less than 4 years old. As a matter of
Okay.
fact, I'm not even a month. Well, am I a month now? No, I'm not. I'm close to a month old in this
Okay.
whole entrepreneurship journey. So my whole thing has always been get a job. Once I
Yeah.
graduated college with my master's, I said, let me go get a job. So I got a job where it was flexible for me to work on the not work on the weekends. I was able to work from home. I've been working from home since 2016, so
Mm. It was
I'm
good.
true to this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not new to this
Look,
type
for
of deal.
real.
Yeah, so I was able to work through corporate and still have my nonprofit on the side and do
Mm-hmm.
all of the things because I needed that guarantee check because like I said I have two kids and because they're in that stage of we're going to 11th and 10th grade. I'm like, I need to just keep this job just until I finish so
Mm.
that I can make sure they get their scholarships and they go
Yeah.
on because one plays basketball, the other one is just really strong in academics. And so that was my plan, was to stay for 2 years. Well, less than a month ago, I got terminated. I got let go from my job.
Wow.
And so it was for me unexpected and it happened so quickly, like abruptly. I just had a one-on-one and all of a sudden HR is on the phone. And I'm like, what?
Mm.
On the video. And I'm like, oh wow, okay. So there's no warning, no
Mm.
nothing. All right. So I really didn't have a choice, but I know that God knew I wasn't
Yeah.
ever going to choose that because I was comfortable. I was
Understood.
comfortable. So
Understood.
I would never sit here and tell someone, quit your job, just do it. No, have a plan.
For
But
sure.
also in that time, I had enough money where I knew, okay, December I can pay my mortgage and I have
Yeah.
some money, and then January I can pay my mortgage. I'll be okay because at this point I have big girl
Yeah.
bills. I'm
Oh,
not
for
just
sure.
living,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, it's just big girl bills, and they're not gonna stop,
For
right?
sure.
And so I thank God for the discernment that I had unknowingly. I didn't
Hmm.
even know that that's what I was doing, but I was holding on to my money for some reason. For some reason, typically I'm like, oh, I'm check to check. Like I'm
Yeah.
making a lot of money, but I'm spending a lot of
For
money.
sure.
And for some reason in that
That
time period,
season.
something was telling me, hold on to your money. Don't buy it off Amazon. Don't
Hmm.
go there. Don't eat there. Something was saying it. I mean, now
It
I
have to
know.
be the
Now I
most
know.
high. For
Yeah,
sure.
because it didn't leave me in a situation where now I'm destitute or I'm trying to figure it out or I'm having to dip into my 401k. And so that's really how I got into entrepreneurship, where I was like, you know what? I'm ready to go full time at this. I'm going to still apply for jobs
Mm.
because you just never know what might
Yeah.
come up, but they won't be in that field or that health benefits consulting, which is what I was in. I was having so much anxiety every day. It was just getting worse and worse. And it wasn't the company, it was the industry because I've worked in three at 3 different companies in the same industry, but my capacity had changed. I went from originally being just a business systems analyst to working in management. And the management is where the anxiety got even worse, because now you're handling $1 billion businesses. This last job that I had, I was working on the top client that they had, like the most revenue or the highest revenue yielding client. And so it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of stress. I was also struggling with ADHD
Mm.
and having different medications that affect you differently, trying to figure out what that looks like for me. And so now I wake up with peace. I wake up happy. And the weird part about it is, I know people were saying, I was like, I don't even know what day it is. They're like, I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm like, no, because I'm not counting
Kinda,
down to
yeah,
Friday, and I'm
exactly.
not
Every
having
day,
anxiety all the way until Monday.
for
So that
sure.
is the difference. I wake up and I choose what I want to do. And my sister, she's been staying at my home. And so she was like, Jasmine, if that happened to me, I would have been sad. I would have been
Yeah.
depressed. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to be sad. I don't have time to be depressed. The bills are gonna keep coming. So
Yep.
I gotta keep going.
Yep.
If I want to eat, I got to meet other people outside of this
Yes.
house. So I've been going to networking events in my community. I will say this, and I'm just gonna look at the camera and say this. If you don't have community, you don't have anything. We think
Wow.
we can do everything on our own, and we cannot. That is not realistic. What do they say? If you want to go far, you got to go with other people. I mean, that's just the truth. And so I've learned to relinquish that sense of control, because I'm a control freak. Because to me, if I can just control it, then I know the outcome. But those outliers, they're just outliers, you know? So you can't control everything. But if you lead with integrity, if you lead with good intention, then you're always going to get back what you put out. And I actually wrote a book called From a Small Seed, Big Dreams Bloom. And that is
Mm.
truly what it is. I'm placing seeds right now that I already know they're going to come to pass in 2026, but I'm planting those seeds. I'm being authentic, and I'm willing to do things without an immediate return. That's what you call investing,
For sure.
because you get your money on the back end.
For sure.
Eventually it's coming, but you have to trust, have faith, and believe. And I can't do nothing without God. So I'm gonna just leave that.
I mean, and to be frank and to
Yeah.
be honest with you, as an entrepreneur for over 10 years, that is what it is. You have to decide if you want to invest in that boss, in
Mhm.
that company, or
Mhm.
if you want to invest in yourself. But either way,
You invest.
we're investing in something.
Yeah.
So, and for me, when with my last job like 10 years ago, it was like, yo, like all this stuff that I do for them, all this energy, all this effort that I pour into them, what if I decide to just bet on me? You get what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
And again, with any um gamble, for the lack of better terms. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's not. But at the end of the day, I'd rather bet on me than
Yeah.
bet on somebody else. So I think that's definitely, a gem that people need to pick up if they if they not listening, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so with that being said, your journey, is so fresh, but this is a fresh breath of fresh air,
Mhm.
fresh breath of
Yeah.
fresh air,
Breath
like
of fresh air. Yeah.
on this show, because on our show we typically only feature full-time, entrepreneurs. But what I appreciate is, because it's so fresh, you can lend that perspective for
Mhm.
those that like feel like they're ready. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like for those that are like, yo, I'm ready to make that leap. And like you said, yeah, you might go get another job, but at this point, like, is it safe to say that you have more, like you said, you're not stressed, you're not,
Mhm.
and that might feel right, not right now, because you got a couple dollars in your pocket,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
whatever the
Mhm.
case may be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
might feel a little comfortable now, but we know that, in this journey, things do go up and down. But
Yeah.
for I want you to just real quickly, for those that are thinking about quitting their 9 to 5, because again, this is something that you've just done, not too long ago. And it's funny because I've had comments and people like, you never talk to the check cashers, you know what I'm saying? Like, you always talk to the check writers. Well, I only can resonate with who I resonate with,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I again, for those that are interested, or they're thinking or maybe they're like, is it time?
Mhm.
What would you tell them?
I'm gonna say this: the reason why you pointed
Mm,
something out very real, and as
mm,
you were your
mm,
previous statement when you were talking
mm.
about building someone else's
Yeah,
business,
yeah,
I live by a quote that either you build your dream or you spend your time building somebody else's. That's just what it is. It's
yeah,
one or the other.
for sure.
And so, even though I'm new to
Mm,
this journey, I am a full. Once that happened to me, I became self-employed. I'm a full-time entrepreneur.
yep.
And yes, you're right. I do feel a sense of security because I know what's covered for the next 2 months. But again, it doesn't mean I don't think about. I'm a very
For
forward thinking person,
understood,
right?
understood.
And so it's not a guarantee of when. I will get a job. I don't know
Yeah,
when, but I do know it is a matter of when, because it's not like I don't have an education. I don't
yeah,
have 10 plus
yeah,
years of
yeah,
experience
yeah,
in the field that I was in. But again, I am pivoting.
for
even
sure.
even with that, now I'm applying for jobs that I actually feel that I would love to do more in the community development side, not in the consulting health benefits sort of side. And so I will say that even though this was not something that I intentionally did, that I kind of fell into, I still knew that everything that I needed I had inside of me. All of
Mm,
the connections, like you said, 2 years ago you and I met,
mm,
I didn't know
mm.
what that meant. Or maybe at that time, sometimes you think, oh, if it didn't happen right now, it's not going to happen.
I love that.
No, it may not happen right now, but it's eventually on its way. That's what planting a seed means, is
Understood.
that I may meet you today and then I see you again 2 years later. And I'm like, oh, we're in perfect alignment now. Because had I tried to do whatever I was doing at that time, it wouldn't have been where it was supposed to be. And so for me, I'm like, wait on God. You'll know something's going to happen, something's going to shift. God knew I was too comfortable
I
with getting
love
the
that.
money all the time, but I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. So nothing about that change. It just helped me tap back into that, because I was only operating at 5% on my nonprofit, if we're being real. So if I went down and talked about my accolades and all these awards that I've won, I was just a L'Oreal Paris top 25 finalist for their Woman of Worth Award. There were almost 5,000 people who applied for that. And that was my very
Congratulations.
first time applying. Thank you so much. And I'm applying again because they were like, hey, a lot of these women have been in the top 25 before. So just apply again. I'm like, okay, cool.
Mm,
And they choose 10 people. So it's not like the odds of me winning are just so far few and
few
in between.
between.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's understanding that you can't do anything without God,
Hmm.
and you can go far by yourself. But if you want to go further, you need to build a team. And then also just have a plan. If you are not planning quarter 3 right now, you're
Yeah.
already behind. So
Yep.
you just need to be planning and be mindful. Really take whatever experiences you have. Like for me, it's corporate. I know how to build a plan. I know how to lead meetings. I know how to be forward thinking. I have a certificate in project management. And so for me, I'm like, I'm certified to do this. I'm using my skills to go and help other people and not just focus on myself. But if you're thinking of going into business, then truly understand what your niche is,
Mm-hmm.
what you're providing,
Yep.
what problem are you solving? Because now I can go teach
Mm,
financial literacy courses. I can go and teach people how to rewrite their resumes or do it for them, which I have been doing. So it's all of these other things. So I'm thinking of the avenues and businesses that I'm creating. And then, as your previous guest, we were talking
mm,
when she was
mm,
talking about, ebooks and
mm.
guides and courses. I've done that. So I'm already tapping into those
I
things. So
love
I
it.
have a plan.
I
But
love
worst comes to worst, if you got a 401k, if you got something to tap
I know
into,
that's right.
because like you said,
Yeah.
I'm serene and I'm waking up
Mm.
happy now. But who knows,
And
two,
look,
3 years from
let
now.
me just retract that because I don't want to sound like the hater in the
No,
room.
no,
But
no. That
I'm
is true. That's real
but
talk.
the point of I do love what you said though. Something like everybody asked me, Kat, when do I know that it's time? Nobody can answer that for
No,
you.
no.
Like you have to be in tune with the Most High,
Hmm.
and he, like you said, it just happened.
Hmm.
You was thinking that you was having a regular conversation with your job, and then boom, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, guys, and you dropped so many gems and so many nuggets. So I just want to first of all say I appreciate that because again, from the fresh
Hmm.
perspective, because I'm seasoned, I'm old school, but I'm an OG
Yeah, you
in
are.
entrepreneurship, right?
I
So my look, so, and I say that to say that
Yeah.
I can't really. speak to that person,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So I appreciate you being on here today, because you had the opportunity to really bring that fresh perspective, especially for those that are looking at this
Mhm.
moment in time to transition. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, of
But with
course.
that being said, for those that want to stay connected to
Yeah.
you or find out more about what you got going on, how do we do that?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Collegiate Moms, or you can find me on Facebook, Collegiate Moms Coalition, or you can follow me personally at J Wiggins 2 on Instagram. That's WIGGINS, the number two. Or you can find me on Facebook, Jasmine Wiggins, and then Robinson on the end, because I still kept that last name. I earned it. I'm like Tina, as long as I can keep my name. So yeah, that's how you can find me, and DM me, email me, collegiatemoms@gmail.com.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we appreciate you, like I said, gracing the platform. Thank you guys so much for everybody that's been tuning in. Last I checked, I think we were at 100,000 views on YouTube. So I know that the youngsters do that clock, that T, that thing. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be young real quick and just do that.
Or you gotta
But
say "Brr, brr, brr, brr," give
most definitely. But no, seriously though, thank you guys for all of you guys that are tapped in. Make sure you continue to follow us at Both Sides of the Check. Make sure you tune in every Monday at 6 a.m. And if you need to start a business, if you're ready to take your idea to income, your concept to company, your girl, Miss Cat, I'm your coach, accountability partner, and teacher, and I can help you do that. So you connect with me at Connect with Miss Cat on all socials, connectwithmisscat.com, where you can find more information on how I can help you take your dream and bring it into reality. But until next time, make sure that you stay tuned in to Both Sides of the Check.